So, Jennifer, my stepmother, just did something I would consider diabolical. She convinced Michael, my father, to sell my house. Yeah, you're probably wondering, how the heck do I have a house? I'm young. Well, here's the deal. I inherited it from Elizabeth, my mom, after she passed away. She put my name on the deed, and Michael, my dad, wasn't very happy about that. The reason she did this was because Michael, my dad, is a drunk, and he tends to get violent. She saw where things were heading and put the house in my name to prevent him from selling it. And now I'm left with a choice. Do I sell it, listen to him so I don't get hurt, or do I rebel and go to the police with evidence? I don't know yet, but here's what's going on. Never thought I'd find myself writing here, but here I am. I've reached the point of total confusion and have no idea how to handle what I'm dealing with, so I'm hoping to get some help. This is a throwaway account because I don't want anything coming back to me. I'm 25, female, and I've always had a complicated relationship with my father, Michael, mostly because of how self-centered he was. He always put his needs and wants first, never considering how his actions affected others. I never understood what my mom, Elizabeth, saw in him. I once asked her, and she told me that he wasn't always like this, but I found that hard to believe. So, we never had that typical father-daughter relationship. I was much closer to my mom, Elizabeth. She was the definition of sweet and nurturing. She took me everywhere, and we did everything together. My parents came from completely different backgrounds. My dad, Michael, grew up on the wrong side of town, and his parents were poor role models, especially his father, Frank, who passed away in prison years ago. I never met my paternal grandparents, and my mom explained to me that it was because they were toxic and unreliable. On the other hand, my mother, Elizabeth, came from a well-known, wealthy family that was beloved by everyone. They had money, status, and a reputation. My parents met in college, and my mom always described their first date as magical and romantic. I found that hard to believe because, growing up, I never saw my father, Michael, spoil her. I found out that my maternal grandparents never wanted my mom, Elizabeth, to marry my father, Michael. They eventually accepted it when she got pregnant with me, but it was a struggle. My mom, Elizabeth, had multiple miscarriages and one stillborn birth before I was born, which is why I don't have siblings. After I was born, she had her tubes tied because she didn't want to endure that pain again. She was just happy to have me. But my birth marked the beginning of my health issues. Shortly after I was born, my mom, Elizabeth, was diagnosed with cancer. According to my Aunt Teresa, this shocked everyone. It was a dark yet happy time for us all. My mom, Elizabeth, fought and won the battle against cancer, and life continued. She worked hard, had her own business, and continued to thrive despite her wealthy background. My father, Michael, worked hard too, but he always felt the unnecessary pressure to show off that he had money, which he didn't. Yes, he earned above average, but it was nothing to brag about. Meanwhile, my mom, Elizabeth, was the one really bringing in the money, but only my maternal side knew that. Everyone else believed it was Michael who was the one making the big bucks. Then tragedy struck again. My mom, Elizabeth's cancer returned, and it was much worse this time. She had to stop working, and eventually ended up living in the hospital. I was in college, but was close enough to visit her every weekend. It was hard to watch her deteriorate, but I was grateful for the time I had with her. During this time, I noticed how absent my father, Michael, had become, though I didn't pay much attention to it. My mom, Elizabeth, passed away shortly after my 21st birthday, and my world collapsed. I barely remember the funeral, but she had a beautiful send-off, and it took a long time to sort out her estate. Her attorney informed my father, Michael, and me that my mom, Elizabeth, had created an incredibly detailed will, and because my father and she had been married in community of property, it created some complications. 3 months after my mother, Elizabeth's passing, my father, Michael, introduced me to my stepmom, Jennifer, and her 2 kids, Joseph and Ashley. He told me that him marrying Jennifer would have been something that my mother, Elizabeth, wanted. I honestly did not know what to make of the situation, especially once I found out that Jennifer worked at the same company as my father, Michael. I don't know, it seemed very suspicious, but I just let things slide. I was actually excited about having siblings since I grew up as an only child, but the excitement was short-lived. See, Joseph and Ashley made it noticeably clear that they wanted nothing to do with me and that they had their own lives, which I was not a part of. Jennifer was even worse. She told me face to face that she was not going to play a mother figure in my life because she already had her own kids, and she had no interest in being mine. As hard as it was hearing those words, I just kept things moving. I was hardly ever home, and that was what kept me sane. Once my mother, Elizabeth's estate was sorted, and we received our share of the estate, my father, Michael, immediately married Jennifer and bought them a new home. He then bought her a new car and has been handling both Joseph and Ashley's bills since they were still finding themselves and didn't know whether school or working was for them. Their big ages. Since my father, Michael, bought a house with only 3 bedrooms and Jennifer made it very clear that the 2 other rooms were for her children, I stayed behind in our old house since it was my mother, Elizabeth's, name, and she had left it to me. My mother, Elizabeth, had basically left me with the whole estate, but since my father, Michael, was entitled to 50% of it, he got exactly that, and nothing more. Well, I received much, much more. Okay, let's fast forward to now. I was currently in medical school after completing my bachelor's degree in health science. I was super grateful that my mother, Elizabeth, had left me a trust fund to cover my tuition fees in case I didn't receive a scholarship or funding. While I was in class, I received a text from my dad, Michael. I was surprised because we hardly spoke, and the last time I saw him was over a year ago. He was asking if we could meet up for lunch, and I was a bit taken back and decided not to respond. He then texted me again, and this time he wrote a long paragraph. He was saying that he did not like how distant we were, and he wanted to work on it, so I agreed to meet up with him. We met up during the weekend at one of my favorite restaurants, and I was surprised that he actually knew that this was one of my favorite places to eat. We spoke about our lives, and he then asked me about medical school. He told me that he could not wait to brag to people about his daughter being a doctor, which made me smile a bit. He then starts to apologize, however, about everything. He admitted to making many mistakes after my mom, Elizabeth, passed, and that he wants to fix it. He told me that my stepmother, Jennifer, and step-siblings, Joseph and Ashley, also wanted to work on their relationship with me, which surprised me. I told him that I would think about it. He then asked if they could come over for dinner next weekend so that we could discuss everything and put things to rest. Well, I agreed. I was tired of being distant from my father, Michael, and I knew that the only way that I could have a real relationship with him was to get along with my stepmother, Jennifer, and siblings, Joseph and Ashley. So, after the lunch date with my father, Michael, I went over to my cousin Ryan's. He was Aunt Teresa's son and like a big bro. When I told him about reconciling with my father, Michael, and step-family, he was totally against it. Man, he made it crystal clear that he found my father, Michael's, actions very suspicious and that he felt like my father, Michael, was only trying to get close to me now because I was about to graduate from medical school. I told him that he was wrong and asked him to stop being so negative. This resulted in us arguing about whether my father, Michael's, intentions were pure or not. What do you guys think? Do you think my father, Michael, is only interested in reconciling with me because I'm about to be a doctor? Let me know what you would do. Update number 1. A week has passed. Oh man. A week has passed since my last update and meeting up with my father, Michael. I looked through all the comments and decided to listen to my heart. However, my intuition has been really off around my dad, Michael. Anyways, my father, Michael, and step-family arrived at my house for dinner. I had cooked something very simple but delicious because I didn't know how the discussion was going to go. My stepmother, Jennifer, had this awful habit of being very nonchalant and never willing to listen to another person's opinion or point of view, which is why we always used to clash. However, I noticed a change in my step-siblings, Joseph and Ashley. Ashley, who never offered to help anyone, offered to help me set up the table. She starts telling me about all her plans to go to college next fall because she had finally figured out what she wanted to do. Well, I was pleased to hear this and told her that if she needed any help, she should not hesitate to reach out. While we were eating, my father, Michael, told me that he was so proud of me and all my achievements. I won't lie, it felt nice and heartwarming to hear my father, Michael, speaking so highly of me. My stepmother, Jennifer, then asked when I would be graduating. I told her that I was only left with 3 more months of school, and then I would be doing my residency. She asked where I would be doing that, and that if I got accepted at a different state, what would happen to the house? Well, I paused for a second and realized that I had actually not thought about the possibility of that. However, Joseph then told her to stop stressing me out, and that I would figure it out after my exam. It felt nice to have him defend me a bit. Dinner went well, and we all agreed that we would work on improving our relationships. However, I found it very weird that my stepmother, Jennifer, was asking me about the house but decided to let her be. Well, the following day, I met up with Ryan, and he was not happy to hear that I had dinner with my family. He told me that there was nothing genuine about those people, and that he couldn't understand why I was allowing them in my life after everything they've put me through. I simply told him that people change and that holding a grudge is unhealthy and exhausting. So, guys, later that day, I noticed that my father, Michael, had posted on Facebook about me graduating soon, which made me feel some type of way. I understood that he was proud of me, but why did he feel the need to express this to his social media friends? Guys, do you think I'm overreacting about this, or should I be appreciating the fact that he's actually bragging about me? What do you think? Updates number 2. Hey, I'm back, guys. So, get this. Life has really taken a turn since my last update, which was 2 weeks ago. Just when I thought things were finally working out, I was hit with a harsh reality check. I was busy preparing notes for my group study session when there was a knock at the door. It was my town sheriff. He took out a document and told me that I'd been served. Well, that confused me. He made me sign that I had received the notice, and then he left. I was absolutely gobsmacked when I finally read the document. I felt the hairs on the back of my neck go up. I was boiling with anger. My father, Michael, had gone to court, and his lawyer filed an eviction notice against me. He was giving me 30 days to pack up my things and leave. He was also claiming that the house was rightfully his since he was on the title deed, which was an absolute lie. But somehow he had managed to draft a fake one that was stating that he was the owner of the house and not my mother, Elizabeth. I could not believe my father, Michael, was stooping this low. He knew that I had nowhere else to stay and that I was not working because of medical school. And now he wanted to kick me out of my mother, Elizabeth's home. You know, I tried to tell myself that maybe this was a misunderstanding and decided to call him. He was so cold towards me, and he was definitely not acting like the man who was here 2 weeks ago asking for us to reconcile. He told me that I was squatting in his house, and that it was time for me to go and get my own house instead of living off him. Well, this made me laugh because he's done absolutely nothing for me since Mom, Elizabeth, passed away. I tried my best to reason with him, but he simply told me that I need to grow up and get out of his house. Well, I could hear my stepmother, Jennifer, laughing in the background and encouraging my father, Michael, to tell me off. Now it made sense why she was asking all those questions about the house. I told my father, Michael, that it was unfair that he expected me to find my own place when Joseph and Ashley still lived with him, and that's when all hell broke loose. He starts calling me lazy and entitled, and he said that I had no right to insult his children and that I was just jealous. I eventually hung up because I couldn't take the insulting and degrading remarks anymore. I cried myself to sleep at night. Guys, is this even legal? Can anyone please give me some advice on the situation? Update number 3. Hey guys, so it's been exactly a week since I got served with the eviction notice. My father, Michael, turned my life upside down within just 2 weeks of reconnecting with him. You know, I regretted meeting up with him and not listening to my cousin Ryan. Thanks to my Aunt Teresa, I managed to contact my mother, Elizabeth's attorney, Robert, and well, even though I came into his office sobbing, because I have been receiving awful threats from my father, Michael, who was demanding that I move out before the 30-day mark, I didn't know how to handle this situation at all. Luckily, my Aunt Teresa did. So, Robert assured me that the house was legally just my mother, Elizabeth's, and that she had left it specifically to me. He told me that he would need a bit more time to find documents, but I also shouldn't worry. I met up with my Aunt Teresa afterwards, and she was fuming with anger. She starts bad-mouthing my father, Michael, and then she accidentally slipped out that my father, Michael, had been having an affair with Jennifer before Mom, Elizabeth, was gone. I dropped my cup of coffee and asked her to repeat what she just said. My aunt, Teresa, realized that she had just exposed something unintentional, sighed, and confessed that my mother, Elizabeth, had always known that my father, Michael, had been cheating on her with Jennifer. She explained that my mother, Elizabeth, had confided in her, but also wrote about it in her journal, which my aunt Teresa took from the house so that I wouldn't find it. She exposed that their affair had started the moment my mother, Elizabeth's, cancer came back. My heart shattered into a million pieces. How could my father, Michael, have done such an awful thing to my mom, Elizabeth, especially while she was fighting for her life? But it made sense. Everyone found it very suspicious and odd that my father, Michael, married Jennifer so quickly after Mom, Elizabeth's, gone. But nobody wanted to do anything out loud in respect of Mom Elizabeth. I knew that I had to expose my father, Michael, and get revenge for everything that he's done and put me through. While I was busy waiting for Robert to send me the documents, I was trying to figure out how to get back at my father, Michael. I bumped into Stepmom, Jennifer's old friend, and boy did she say a lot. I was surprised that she even recognized me, but then I remembered that my father, Michael, attacked me in his bragging post a few weeks ago. Well, we chatted a bit, and then she asked how things were holding, since the bank sent my father, Michael, the notice. I asked her what she's going on about, and she spilled the beans. Turns out my father, Michael, and stepmother, Jennifer, were facing bankruptcy, and the bank had sent a letter stating that if they did not make payment towards the mortgage, then they would be taking the house. And this is why I believe that my universe was by my side, because how else would I have gotten such information? We did our goodbyes and went our separate ways, and so that was their motive. That's when my father, Michael, wanted to reconnect with me and why my stepfamily was being so nice. This was their plan all along, and it felt so stupid for actually falling for it. While I'm going to make sure that they pay for this, I'm not going to let them get away with trying to use me, but I'm also wondering if I should investigate the bankruptcy claim that my stepmother, Jennifer's friend, is making. Would I be wrong for using something so personal just to get a bit of revenge? Update number 4. Well, hey guys. I know, I've been pretty quiet since all this drama started, and I've been trying to recover. My father, Michael, called for a meeting with our attorneys. Instead of taking me to court, I lied and told him I would move out before the 30 days if he promised not to take me to court, and we settled things with the attorneys, which he agreed to, knowing he didn't have a leg to stand on. The day of the meeting came, and when my father, Michael, saw Robert, he immediately looked nervous. My stepmother, Jennifer, was smirking because she had no clue who Robert was or how he was about to turn their whole world upside down. Jennifer immediately demanded that I sign a contract stating I would never come back to the house again. I just laughed. Then I pulled out my documents, tossed the matter, and told her I knew everything. My father, Michael, raised an eyebrow, and I told him I knew they were facing bankruptcy and the bank was looking to take away their home. Their faces went white, but they tried to act like they had no idea what I was talking about. I pulled out a fake Photoshop document that showed the bank asking my mother, Elizabeth's, estate if she had left anything else that could cover his debts. I then threatened to take them to court and file a case against them. That's when their tone changed, and they asked if I could forget everything and that they'd do anything. I shook my head and told my father, Michael, that I was going to expose everything he had done to me. Out of panic, he confessed that Jennifer had forced him into everything. He explained that Jennifer had threatened to expose their affair unless he married her and took care of her and her children. Jennifer's eyes turned dark as Michael continued, revealing that because of Jennifer's selfishness and greed, they were now in so much debt that he was about to lose everything, even the car my mother, Elizabeth, had left him. He admitted that the only reason he had contacted me was to find out more about the house and see if they could play me and get it sold to pay off their debts. But Jennifer then admitted that her plan was to sell the house, split the money with her kids, and that the bankruptcy issue was Michael's problem, not hers. I shook my head and asked Jennifer if she would have liked another woman to treat her children the way she had treated me. She rolled her eyes, called me worthless, and said my mother, Elizabeth, had done a horrible job raising me, unlike her, who had raised her kids properly. I reminded her that both of her kids were unemployed and had nothing. That's when she tried to attack me. Luckily, Michael blocked her. He yelled that he was tired of her and wanted nothing to do with her. Jennifer then threatened to expose Michael's dirty secrets and said he could never leave her because of all the sacrifices she made for him. Despite Michael trying to defend me and realizing that Jennifer was the mastermind behind everything, I still decided to go ahead with my revenge plan. I exposed everything on social media, including receipts and evidence to back up my claims. People were shocked to find out that Michael had threatened me to leave my home. Many were disappointed to see how badly he and Jennifer had treated me. This caused a huge uproar, and my maternal grandparents were dragged into the mess. Well, guys, should I have taken this to court instead of posting it on social media? I think I could have handled things differently. Update number 5. So, this will be my last update, I promise. It's been a month since I last posted, but I needed a break from everything. Once my maternal grandparents heard about what my father, Michael, and Jennifer tried to do, they used their status and influence to get them fired from their jobs. My grandfather told their bosses that if they wanted to continue receiving funding, they'd have to let them go. I was pleased with this outcome because, honestly, it felt like the best punishment. Don't get me wrong, my grandparents are humble and genuine people. They don't use their power for selfish reasons, but they felt Michael deserved to be punished for how he had treated me. Michael then decided to file for divorce, but Jennifer wasn't willing to cooperate. She claimed he owed her everything because she was now jobless and had no income. But when she found out Michael had absolutely nothing, and that the majority of Elizabeth's estate was mine, she tried to threaten me into giving her money, which, of course, didn't work. She started sending me harassing texts about how I had ruined her life, and how I was going to expose my selfish, evil ways. The texts became so bad and taunting that I had to get a protection order against her. Meanwhile, Joseph and Ashley, Jennifer's children, have been trying to reach out to apologize. Apparently, Jennifer told them to ice me out, but now they want to make amends. I find it hard to believe, though, because they're adults and could make their own decisions. As for Michael, he tried to apologize and fix our relationship, but I told him that ship has sailed. I have no interest in reconciling with him, none at all. He's the man who cheated on his sick wife, Elizabeth. I told him that nothing would ever make me understand what he did to my mother, Elizabeth. I made it clear that I wanted nothing to do with him, and I knew that the only reason he was trying to reconcile was to get on my good side because he wanted his job back. On a brighter note, I'm about to start my residency training in 2 weeks, and I'm super excited. I know my mom, Elizabeth, is looking down on me, proud of how far I've come. But after my grandparents told me I could have handled things differently with Michael and Jennifer, I started to feel a bit guilty. They didn't like that I aired all my family's dirty laundry on social media, especially since we're so well known. But at the same time, I knew exposing Michael publicly would hit him where it hurt the most, and that's something I don't regret. What do you guys think? Should I have handled it differently or exposed Michael the way I did?